Welcome back, everyone. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has asked the federal government to stop toying with the future of Nigerians by implementing, in particular, the agreement reached in 2022 with ASUU, which led to the suspension of the strike that year. ASUU has accused the federal government of insensitivity manifested in its refusal to implement agreements from several years ago. The federal government has been told to stop playing the time-buying gimmicks with the Academic Staff Union of Universities. The union says that if the fresh 2-week ultimatum issued last week should elapse without an agreeable response from government and ASUU starts to strike, ASUU should not be held responsible for the breakdown in industrial harmony. Tonight, let's speak with Professor Adelaja Odukoya, is the zonal coordinator, ASUU Lagos Zone, as ASUU gives federal government fresh 14-day strike notice. Prof, good evening to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Welcome to Politics Tonight. Prof, good evening to you. Could you please unmute your device?
Good evening.
All right.
I'm happy to be with you tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us. Your union has said it could not see why the government, which has billions of dollars to renovate the house of the vice president, would lack the mega amounts to fix universities, which produced most of them. And I mean, many say the union has a fair point here. But is ASUU saying that the first ultimatum didn't yield any results? I know there was a meeting between the union and the federal government in August and September, which was the outcome of those meetings. We thought it was fruitful. What happened?
Thank you so much. Yeah, just like before there were meetings, but the sad thing is to say that nothing has been put on table. So what we have had is what could be likened to motion without movement. If there have been any meaningful conversation to resolve the problem on ground, we will not be given a fresh ultimatum.
You know, we thought there is some form of agreement between ASUU and federal government to make strike a forgotten issue. But surprisingly, we're here again. Are these old demands, or in a way, these demands have been requested or rather readjusted? Because, I mean, just 3 weeks ago, Professor Sununu was here on the program, and he said the federal government had met some of the demands.
Thank you. When it comes to the issue of our agreements, it's so sad that we are actually going through what we're going through. Although Nigeria is a pseudo-capitalist society, for capitalism, you see the ideology still being, whether being fully or well practiced or not, to see capitalism. Another capitalism, one of the sacred things is actually the sanctity of agreements. And one of the things that defines any government is actually law and order. Well, over the years, our governments, successive government have proved to be so lawless and be the greatest law breakers. So what we have had is that, yes, we have always have agreements, but like every other time, the government is actually enter into agreement, it never intends to actually uphold. So that's what has happened. These are no new agreements. They are the age-old agreements, starting from the need to have renegotiated the 2009 agreement. Even the IPPIS that since December last year, the president, with executive powers, have actually said it's a thing of the past. It's serious to be implemented. Our outstanding salaries, paid salary are still there. The issue we're still having unpaid accumulated promotion dating back to 2018-2019 promotion arrears and the myriad of other problems. So there are no new problems. They are actually old problems. The government, including our academic allowances, that was actually in the 2023 budget, as well as the money for the revitalization of the university that was equally in that last year budget. It was not implemented. We don't know what has happened to the money. The government is vacillating on what it has promised to do and has grossly refused to do.
So, Prof, let's be clear. The 2 times ASUU had met the federal government, what exactly was the focal point of the meeting? Can you hear me, Prof? Prof, can you hear me? Okay, so I was saying the 2 times ASUU had met the federal government. What was the focal point of the meeting? What exactly was the outcome of the meetings both parties have had in the last 2 months? Prof, can you hear me? Professor Odukoya, if you can hear me. Okay, did you get my question?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Did you get that question?
I can hear you. I didn't hear any question.
Right, so I wanted to know, the 2 times ASUU had met the federal government, what exactly was the focal point of the conversation? At the end of each meeting, what did ASUU take away from the meeting?
The focal point is just we have a comprehensive demand that have always been outstanding, and those are the things I've highlighted. But for the purpose of emphasis, the first has to do with the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement, which actually, by that agreement, was supposed to have been renegotiated since 2012, every 3 years. Nothing started about that until 2017 with Dr. Wale Babalakin committee that made no headway with it. And after that, there have been 2 other committees. There were a renegotiation that was actually completed, which the government set aside, failed to do anything about it. There was equally the late Professor Minnie's Briggs committee, which actually took over, and we actually insisted from the word go to know the mandate of that committee, whether it's actually representing the government before we even started negotiation. And we had our assurances. And at the end of the day, we concluded negotiation. The government has refused to do anything about that. So that issue, the implication of that is that the salaries a lecturer has been earning since 2009 is what we're still earning today. Forget the tokenism of maybe based on what do we call it, minimum wage and things like that. And as at 2009, to interest you that the salary then was an equivalent of maybe $3,000. With the grossly abused and eroded value of the naira, an average professor is earning barely $200 today. That will tell you the urgency of the need to negotiate that agreement, because you don't expect a frustrated lecturer to actually deliver the best. And this is why we've been having the Japa syndrome within the universities. Universities are virtually empty. Our best brains are leaving every day, particularly the young ones, and nobody's interested in actually taking over. So we have that. We have the case of ICPIS, which I've mentioned before. I didn't want to I will allow that to equally delay us again. We have the issue of promotion and ariasis. We have the issue of proliferation of universities. We have the issue of what do we call it now? End academic allowances. And when we talk about end academic allowances, what we actually say is that our lecturers are grossly being overworked, and government knows how much. We are doing work that are actually more than our brief. And because the alternative is not the right thing for the government to do is actually to employ people. So, but again, because of IPPIS and government's insensitivity, in the last few years, it has been very difficult to employ people, and people are leaving. As a matter of fact, about 6-8 months ago, at the University of Lagos, we are losing an average of 15 people or 15 lecturers every month, and there have not been replacement. There are departments that their staff complements, the establishment should be about 30, 35, don't have more than 5 people. Some people are doing that work, and they are supposed to be paid. The government recognizes that they have not been paid. And so these are all the issues that were on the table. But what do we have? It's just promising, no. So it appears the political will is not there. And it appears the government is equally not interested in the education and development of the country. By the way, it's treating this higher education, particularly the university sector and the academics.
All right, Prof. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll take these issues one after another. Please stay with us, everyone.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known, for when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century, speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. Professor Adelaja Odukoya is my guest tonight. Is the zonal coordinator, ASUU Lagos Zone, as ASUU gives federal government fresh 14-day strike notice. Prof, thank you so much for staying with us on the program. You know, it was important to hear directly from one of you, because the last conversation I had with Professor Kayode Osuola, there were some things he says he could not verify. And I wanted to know if these demands had been adjusted, because as the president, Professor Osodeke, just like you've mentioned some of the outstanding issues, to include emergency revitalization fund of the public universities, payment of outstanding earned academic allowances, release of withheld salaries, promotion arrears, and third-party deductions of ASUU members. All these are reappearing issues. But does it mean previous governments did not understand the importance of these demands, or it was just a case of priority and non-availability of funds?
Let's start by saying politics is about allocation of values, and the issue of authoritatively, and the fact that you need to allocate values to are actually underscored by the economic notion that all things are scarce relative to people's desire for them. So it's about priority. It's about, so there will always be scarcity. There will always be inadequate funds. It's about prioritizing or giving priority to the right thing. By the time you realize that education is central to everything we do, particularly for a nation that desires development. Just like the one-time Prime Minister of Great Britain, the United Kingdom said, to Israel, he said, on to the education of the youth of this country, the future of this country depends. So if you know the connection between education and development, particularly tertiary education, you won't joke with it, and it will be accorded priority. It is within that context that the UNESCO have actually advocated that any serious nation should actually devote about 5% of its revenue.
Professor Odukoya, are you there? Prof, are you there? All right, tonight we're discussing Academic Staff Union of Universities' latest demands and strike notice to the federal government. And I've been speaking with Professor Adelaja Odukoya, is a zonal coordinator, ASUU Lagos Zone. Prof, are you there? Prof, if you can hear me. All right, let's go on a break and I'll be right back. Stay with us, everyone.
Voted as the best TV station of the year, TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories, without the news from every perspective, covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you would want to watch.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Politics Tonight, and I've been speaking with Professor Adelaja Odukoya, as the Zonal Coordinator, ASUU Lagos Zone. Tonight, we're discussing ASUU as the union gives federal government fresh 14-day strike notice. Prof, thank you so much for staying with us. You're there now, so let's continue with this conversation. Because you and some of your colleagues say this delay in renegotiating that agreement has left academic staff on the same salary structure for over a decade. Also, past administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, represented by the then Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, had stated that Nigeria could not borrow to fund ASUU's demand since the government had to meet other needs. And the belief was that ASUU agreed that what the government needs to do is to stagger the payments. Was there such an agreement, Prof?
Yeah, there was never such an agreement, please. It is convenient for government to borrow money to do the Lagos-Calabar Highway and all other sundry extravagant white elephant projects. The point I made was to the fact that any nation that prioritizes its own development and the future of its youth will give priority to education. Any nation that knows the importance of higher education and is not ready to continue to be a cargo economy, a backward dependent, decadent economy like our peripheral economy like our own, will give priority to education. And all this neoliberal inspired idea about entrepreneurship is only enforcing the international division of labor that makes us dependent and makes us a trading post. Nations that are developed are technologically developed. Nations that are developed are into manufacturing and into industrialization. And that's because we have neglected this over the years. That's why at the best of time, our manufacturing is not more than it's not contributing more than 12%. Why to develop we need 35%. And this cannot equally be gotten when all your inputs and technologies are actually from abroad. It is only through university and technological education, higher education generally, that you can actually be very, very strong in terms of research and development and in terms of technology, in terms of ICT. So what our government is actually doing is making a serious vote for permanent underdevelopment, and that to us is unacceptable. So we never agreed that at any point in time that anything will be staggered. We had an agreement. The agreement was ready to be signed, and the government has refused, has failed, to sign that agreement, and that's why we are still where we are.
So the issue of IPPIS, because there was an announcement that the Federal Executive Council had directed that the university system be removed from IPPIS, but I see that this is still one of the major reasons ASUU intends to go on strike. Though Professor Sununu says that delay is due to bureaucracy. First, does ASUU buy that excuse? And for the purpose of clarity, why does ASUU prefer IPPIS?
We have left the issue of why ASUU prefer IPPIS. We are now talking about government equally rejecting IPPIS based on what ASUU have said over the time. Okay. IPPIS is fraudulent. It's a violation of the university autonomy. It's part of the problem we are talking about. Under IPPIS, one of the reasons why promotional arrears have not been paid for outstanding since 2018 is equally because of IPPIS. One of the reasons why it has been difficult for the university to replace those who have left is because of IPPIS, because IPPIS is over centralization. The university system is a special development platform where you don't treat nowhere is university treated as a bureaucracy or as a civil servant. I'm a dean, for instance. I can, just by engaging you, if I discover you have something to offer, I don't need anybody's permission, even on temporary basis, to bring you into the system. And with time, that can be this thing. But now to employ that can be regularized. But now to employ a cleaner, you have to go to Abuja. That does not happen in a university system that is serious and is interested in improvement. So the issue for our against IPPIS are settled. We have always canvassed it. And for those who are there, we are saying that we are telling government what to do about our salary. I've seen. And IPPIS are equally proving to be more fraudulent than the system is seek to replace. The former the accountant general Idris, his case is still in the courts about how much money went through was embezzled through the IPPIS and several other things. So we have been vindicated when it comes to why IPPIS is not acceptable. It's a violation of university autonomy. It has promoted corruption, grand corruption for that matter, and it has become more problematic than the problem it intends to solve.
So, Prof, in this 14-day window period, what do you expect of the federal government? What do you hope to achieve within this extended framework? Because if I'm to quote Professor Sotoke, it says, in view of the foregoing, ASUU resolved to give the Nigerian government another 14 days, in addition to the earlier 21 days beginning from Monday, 23rd September 2024, during which all the lingering issues must have been concretely addressed to the satisfaction of the membership of the union. So this means the union has to be satisfied. I mean, you're not forgetting that the federal government will not meet all the demands at a go. So what are you hoping for within this period?
Why not? Why are you preempting the federal government, or you are relying on the antecedent of non-performance? Anyway, the most important thing is to say, and we must make it clear, the 14 days near ultimatum is not an indication of whether we are in doubt as to what we want to do on our part. We are just simply following the law. The trade law is so clear about trade disputes. You remember that our last strike was ended in the courts. So unlike the usual strike that we have when we just resume our strike based on the suspended strike, that means whatever we were doing before was terminated. So we are following the process. The law is so clear. We have declared 21 days. It's stipulated we should declare 14 days after if the issues are not resolved. That's what we have done. And we'll follow the process all through. And if what we expect, if the government is serious, if the government cares about the development of this country, because the university system has become very stable. Everybody, even the work that were not done during that time, have been done. And that's just the teaching anyway. The students have graduated. No, and let's make it very clear. The average lecturer does not, particularly the leadership of us, the worst thing we want to happen is a strike action. It's not easy. It's not a tea party. It's not easy to prosecute. So we don't want strike. It disrupts our system.
Okay.
It affects us in multiple ways. You can't go on vacation. You can't go on leave. You can't plan. You can't go on conferences because you have to do the work. So what we expect government is to do the needful, and that's why we have been calling on Nigerians. Talk to them. But again, that said, if push get to push, we will not shy away from doing the needful, and that's going on strike. But we have Nigerians are witness to what we are doing and the refusal of the government to do the needful.
So, Prof, I also see that illegal dissolution of governing councils is also part of ASUU's grievances. I thought the president had worked on the list twice just to meet the demand of every interested party. And so I thought that had de-escalated the issue. So why is ASUU still displeased?
You see, the governing council is actually the mechanism put in place to administer the system, our university. And when any government is allowed to wake up and based on whims and caprices, or whether that government, the visitor, had problems overnight with his wife, or sleep on the right side of the bed, and just wake up and just dismiss and could dismiss a governing council, it portends grave danger to the viability of the university system. And that's what the government have done. So it is not about tinkering with the list. It's about that it should not have been done in the first place. It's about the fact that the governing council has a tenure and should be allowed to finish its tenure. It's just like somebody wakes up. What the government have done amounts to a military coup, a civilian coup against a lawful body. There's a tenure and there's a condition in law on which they could be removed, and that is if the government has found them wanting in the discharge of their responsibility, and we have not been told that. And that equally could not be across board all over the governing council in the country. So what we are saying is that a government should be a government of law, not lawlessness. And we are asking government to be true to what it's supposed to be true to be and obey lawful laws. Live according to law. You cannot just wake up and some.
So I hear you, Prof. So what the union is saying now is that government must bring back the old council for the members to conclude their tenure. Is that it?
Yes, because they've not completed their term. Would the president be happy if somebody just say, oh, just go without completing his own term?
But Prof, realistically, is that still possible?
Why not? If not, why not? If that's the law, if the government, if the president as a visitor to the university want to be a lawful person, want to show that he's not above the law, he's a man that respects the rule of law, he works according to the constitution. That is the sensible thing to do. It's not a rocket science.
Okay. All right. So help us understand this other demand, because according to ASUU, federal government's wage awards should not and cannot replace the finalization of the draft federal government ASUU agreement package, which was etched on collective bargaining principles. What exactly does this mean, Prof?
Okay, thank you so much. Well, it's a clear position as contained in our collective agreement, which is the 2009 agreement. Based on the nature of our work, we are not wage laborers. And again, too, workers are not supposed to be slaves that you just throw anything. This is what you have. No, we are supposed, and that's what we have. What the agreement says, that every 3 years we sit down and review. And review could be upward or backward, depending on the condition. So it is not an authoritarian, it's not a military regime whereby somebody will just sit down in National and say, hey, take this or leave it. No, that is not it. So we are talking the spirit of the law, we are talking the spirit of the agreement, we are talking the spirit of the regulation and the law of the International Labour Organization that actually approve collective bargaining. So this thing, what we are equally talking about, and that is why it's even very painful, is what we should have done since 2012. And this is 2024. How many years after? Over a decade after, and we are still, that agreement has not been negotiated. So Nigerians should actually be asking government, what is actually your problem? And Nigerian academics and scholars have been treated as if they are foreigners or slaves in their own country. This is so sad and regrettable.
So, Prof, I mean, you said that it is not the wish of ASUU to go on strike. So what happens after this 14-day deadline is over and ASUU is not satisfied?
I said that too. We'll follow the law through, and when we get to the bus stop and we have and the government has not done the needful, I said we will not shy away from doing the needful. We'll go on strike. Strike is a legitimate instrument of enforcing agreement and ensuring that a recalcitrant government or employer do the needful. And because we are no slaves, we have the right to withdraw our labor at any point in time. Labor cannot be by compulsion. It is voluntary. And if the conditions are not right, if you have called the attention of government to it and the needful is not being done, we'll do the needful at our parts. All
right. So, Prof, let's expand this conversation for the next few minutes. You know, apart from this issue between the federal government and the union, we must also not forget to say that this present administration inherited that crisis. But many believe President Tinubu is capable of resolving. But so far, I want us to talk about how the current administration has fared with its approach to the education sector. With increased budgetary allocation to the sector, introduction of the student loan scheme, how significant is this to the education sector in the country?
Sincerely, and I will shock you, the government has failed woefully. Education loan, what about it? Education loan, for me, is actually passing the buck. It has been tried before it has failed. And even in countries like UK and particularly America, people that have taken the loan have been impoverished such that they cannot even move. They are just like our country. They have what we call debt overhang. They can't live their life. People are committing suicide. Even the president of the United States of America has to cancel several millions of dollars in loan. Is that what the student loan is actually sentencing the youth of this country to future liability? In a country where people live on universities or higher education and they are not sure of any jobs. So what loan? We are saying fund the so that's no achievement for me. That's no achievement for ASUU, and we have made our position very clear. So that's about that. In terms of funding, it's equally very sad because President Tinubu was supposed to, during the last strike action, of course, maybe for political expediency, he was involved. Twice we met with him. He understands the issue. He pretended to empathize with us because it now turned out to be a pretense because we have expected that given a major stakeholder that was involved and tried to look up peace there, we should not be here by now talking. It's equally sad that even as at now, despite all attempts, we've not been able to meet with the president. He was looking for us then. We've not been able to meet with the president. So with all this, and of course, the educational sector is equally not immune from the crisis in the society. At my university, for instance, given what has happened under this government, our electricity bill alone is as much as 483 million per month, from 120, 160, 190. ABU, Zaria, OU, OAU, IFE. I've asked their lives have had to be in court because they could not pay. The same thing with Unilag. That's why they find that we're paying 190 million and all spaces of education. So, what is there to share about? So, like I said, and about the fact that this problem have always been there. Government is liability and assets. So just like they are enjoying, and they were promised that they are the miracle workers, they will solve all the problem. So nobody should give the excuse that the problem have always been there. Yeah, government is a continuum.
Prof, it's interesting to see that you're not impressed with that scheme because there are some of your members who are very impressed. They've said it's a very highly recommended scheme. But the challenge is...
I'm impressed because there's not mess about.
So let's talk about the challenges. Some other challenges bedeviling the sector, including a high number of out-of-school children, a barely functioning basic education system, and a chronically underfunded tertiary education system. But the president has promised more investments in education. He also pledged to look into some harsh regulatory frameworks hindering the improvement of tertiary education in the country. What areas do you think the federal government must focus on?
Thank you. Basically, you see, the three most important things to actually reposition our educational sector at all levels is funding. Funding is the blood, is the life wire of the education system. And we are in a global knowledge society, knowledge economy. Except we want to remain stewards of woods and drawers of water as a nation, we cannot play with education. Nobody, all the kind of system we used to study before at the primary school level in those days, nursery, talkless of the university, are now relics of history. So if we must produce the next workforce, the human capital that will bring about the requisite development for this country, governments must invest massively in education, and particularly university education. Forget this nonsense about to say that because the World Bank told us way back 2000 that we don't need, and that's part of the problem, and that we don't need university education. Because they want us to be importing everything from them, including even those who fix up. University makes you to think. We produce thinkers in the university. University is not about producing entrepreneurs. University is to produce thinkers, innovators, creators. And those are the people that change the world, that dominate the world we are in now. If Nigeria must join those League of Nations that are up there, it must invest seriously in education, not the way we are doing now, and particularly university education. And the way to go is simple. It is not about this unnecessary, politically inspired proliferation of university. Equip our existing university, expand their capacity to absorb so that they can take more students, instead of duplicating bureaucracy and replicating corruptions at all levels. And let the university function the way they should function. Universities are global institutions. They call them university because they are universal. A university must be as good as others. Our university used to be on the same level with any other university in the world. We used to attract students from all the world and scholars from all the world. They are no longer here. And universities abroad, they fund and get funds from foreigners, not even from their citizens. So if we make our universities globally competitive, we attract top-rate scholars, we attract students. And Nigeria is a global destination for several things. They will come here, they were here before, and we make money from them. And this issue about university should be able to fund itself. University will be able to only to fund itself when it has been developed to that stage. It has that capacity to do that. You don't ask a child that you have not given food to start going to work in the farm. The university must be developed, and the government must fund the university.
So, Prof, let me come in here. Right, Prof, let me come in here and let's stay on this expanding number of universities. You know, it's important to talk about this because at the moment there are over 270 universities in Nigeria, 2 of which were founded within the first half of this year. Of the total counts, 149 were private, while state and federal added up to 63 and 62 respectively. It was just of recent that 2 universities made the top 1,000 spots in the global ranking. Do you consider this increasing number of universities as a logical and counterproductive to the building of a viable, global respected tertiary education system in Nigeria?
It's actually counterproductive. That's what I've said before this question. It's actually counterproductive. University of Ibadan, University of Ife, Ahmadu Bello University, Nsukka, all our first generation universities, even second generation universities, will compete in those days favorably with any universities in the world. What we have done is to expand, and we have expanded so thin that there is no value again. What we have done is to have proliferate such that we have university at almost every corner as we turn. People wake up and just have university, maybe for their girlfriends or their concubines, for primordial reason, for political reason, and things like that. So the funds that are not there are being spread around. For example, now, the other time we were talking about the students' loan. The third fund, which used to be the Education Trust Fund, was a baby of ASUU struggle in the 90s. When we were challenged that, oh, you are asking for this, you are asking for where do we get the money? We made that suggestion. And the whole idea is it was meant by design and conception for university education. But now, it is an all-purpose thing. If the government will establish university without a cobble to fund it, and they will go to third fund. Now we are being told 30% of money from third fund will go to the students' loan. That means the implication is that 30% of the money that would otherwise have been available for university development and expansion will no longer be there, will no longer be available. So what the government is doing by the proliferation is to continue to dig the grave of our university system to make them uncompetitive. What is desirable is a situation where leave the university the way they are, pour money to those universities to have what they need to be or to work as a university in other parts of the world, expand their capacity to because again people need to come to the university. There's high demand. Yes, we agree on that. But this will not be solved by establishing at every corner university. No.
So, Prof, I'm also wondering if this response is, if the submission is a response to my next question, because we understand that a more competitive university market will ensure quality and rapid growth. So, what are those innovative ways that will ensure a better funding model for our public universities?
Yeah, you see, the question about better funding model is actually making an assumption. It's a constitutional issue that government should fund education. And again, this idea that government cannot fund education is not true. Germany, you have free education there. Even in South Africa there, several of Nigerian students, even at the postgraduate level, are enjoying free education. They are on scholarship. All the Nordic countries, education is free there. So I don't know all this wrong narrative that we have that government cannot fund education, education cannot be free. No, the funds will waste on a lot of frivolity. The funds will waste on cost of governance. If we know the importance of education and we know where our bread is actually being buttered as a nation, we will actually do the right thing. So this idea about better model is actually presumptuous that government cannot fund education. No, right. The constitution is clear and it has not been changed. Governments, as much as possible, should fund education, and we are saying it is possible. It is only the greed of our political class and the unwillingness to do the right thing. And perhaps again because education is a challenge. Part of the problem, like I tell my colleagues that we have with the ruling class, is that we as scholars, we are trained to say no when there is when we see something that is wrong. We won't pretend. We'll speak truth to power. And we are equally training another generation of people that will speak truth to power. So the government and the ruling class has a pathological hatred for knowledge. And again, too, they are equally listening to outsiders. They are listening to World Bank. They are listening to IMF. Okay. They are listening to international and all the Western distance that says we don't need a university education, which falls within their context of the law of comparative advantage. Oh, let's produce those who can think for you. You just be biased of who are the laborers that do our dogged rough works. No.
All right, Prof. You know, for a fact, the challenges are enormous, but with continuous conversation, we'll continue to have this conversation so these challenges can be defeated. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Professor Adelaja Odukoya, Zonal Coordinator, ASUU Lagos Zone. Thank you so much for your perspectives on the program tonight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a nice evening.
You too, Prof. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at midnight. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke WO using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Good night, everyone.